We hear it all the time. The economy is growing, unemployment is low, everything is looking up. That's the official story. But for many, that story does not match reality. Jobs are disappearing, wages are stagnating, and insecurity is rising, even as companies report record-breaking profits. So what's really going on behind the headlines? This video takes a closer look at the cracks in the system. We will explore the rise of mass layoffs, automation, and gig work, not through abstract data, but through the lived realities of people navigating a job market that feels increasingly unstable. The goal isn't to offer quick fixes, but to ask the deeper questions. Who benefits from this system and who gets left behind? In recent years, some of the world's biggest companies have announced sweeping job cuts. Tech giants slashed thousands of roles, even while reporting double-digit revenue growth. Headlines talk about streamlining and efficiency, but what they really mean is that fewer people are doing more work or being replaced altogether, and often by automation. And this is not limited to tech. Retail, finance, manufacturing, even healthcare, industries once thought to be stable are all seeing reductions in staff, despite healthy financial reports. In 1 year alone, the UK retail sector lost over 160,000 jobs, even as big chains remained profitable. The contradiction is jarring. How can businesses thrive while shedding so many workers? Part of the answer lies in how companies now define success. Growth no longer means hiring more people, it means doing more with less. Layoffs aren't just responses to crisis anymore. They are strategic choices aimed at boosting short-term returns, often to satisfy shareholders rather than to sustain long-term stability. At the same time, this new normal reshapes expectations for new workers. Stability, which was considered a basic feature of full-time employment, is now a privilege. For many, it's no longer about building a career. It's about holding on long enough before the next round of job cuts. But increasingly, layoffs aren't just a response to economic shifts. They are a signal, a message to investors that a company is serious, disciplined, or trimming fat to improve margins. Sometimes layoffs are performative, publicized with flair, timed with earning calls, and used to boost stock prices. Tech companies like Meta or Twitter under Elon Musk have used mass terminations not to cut costs, but to reset company culture, assert control, and appeal to shareholders. And this is what we have to understand, that in this economy, firing workers can be a sort of branding exercise. But not all layoffs come with press releases. Some are invisible. Roles get restructured, targets rise quietly, employees are nudged out through burnout, unrealistic KPIs, or project cuts. It's not called firing, but the outcome is the same. And in a system obsessed with optics, attrition is weaponized. Workers disappear without formal layoff numbers actually rising. And these quiet exits protect a company's image while leaving workers with no severance and no closure. One major force behind these sweeping changes is automation. Across industries, companies are rapidly replacing human labor with machines, software, and artificial intelligence. Not out of necessity, but to widen the profit margins. It's not about survival, it's about optimization. What we are experiencing now, which I will, for the sake of this series, call the Great Depression 2.0, because I really feel that it will be that for a lot of people. And the greatest difference between what is happening now and what is provoking it, as opposed to how the Great Depression happened, is that the Great Depression happened because of a crash in the stock market, whereas what is happening now is pretty much due to corporate greed. In retail, self-checkout systems reduce the need for cashiers. In warehouses, robots now handle sorting, packing, and transport. Even in healthcare, algorithms assist with diagnostics, replacing tasks once done by trained professionals. These changes are often marketed as progress, but progress for who? While automation cuts costs for businesses, it erodes job opportunities, particularly in roles that once were seen as reliable entry points in the workforce. And the result isn't just fewer jobs, it's a reshuffling of risk. Companies offload uncertainty to workers, expecting them to adapt, retrain, or disappear quietly from the labor force. And as machines take over repetitive or routine work, the remaining jobs are often more precarious, short-term, part-term, or freelance. The media often likes to justify job insecurity with job hopping, but the promise for a lifelong employment has faded and has been replaced by an economy that values flexibility over stability, especially when it benefits the employer. The truth is that automation isn't just a technological shift, it's an economic strategy, one that prioritizes efficiency over employment and productivity over people. Alongside automation, another trend has reshaped the job market, which is the rise of the gig economy. It's often sold as freedom, flexibility, the ability to be your own boss, but the reality for many is far more fragile. Gig workers such as drivers, couriers, freelancers are kept at arm's length from the companies that they serve. They do employee work, but they are not called employees. They are called independent contractors, which means they have no sick day pay, no pension, or no job security. They absorb all the risk while platforms and governmental entities take a cut for every single transaction. On paper, this seems efficient, but behind it are thousands of people working inconsistent hours under constant pressure with no safety net. An Uber driver might earn a decent wage one week, then barely scrape by the next. There is no guarantee of stability, only the illusion of control. And this isn't limited to delivery apps or ride-hailing services either. Across industries, full-time roles are being replaced by freelance contracts, zero-hour arrangements, and temporary gigs. The traditional employer-to-employee relationship is being dismantled and replaced by something far less accountable. And for many, this gig economy doesn't really offer flexibility, it demands it. It thrives on economic instability, feeding off of people's need to earn something, anything, in the absence of better options. And when work becomes a hustle, burnout becomes a baseline. Older workers often bear the brunt of layoffs, but they rarely get the spotlight. In sectors like tech and finance, experienced employees become expensive liabilities. They're the first to go in streamlining and the last to be rehired. And bias creeps in quietly. Phrases like culture fit or adaptability are used to filter out older applicants. The result is a silent culling of decades of experience replaced by younger, cheaper, and more precarious labor. In policy, mostly silent, because age discrimination in hiring is hard to prove and harder to fix. Beneath the surface of official employment statistics lies another hidden layer of labor, work that goes unpaid, unrecognized, and increasingly expected. From unpaid internship to voluntary roles filling gaps in public services, people are being asked to contribute with their time and their skills for free. In some sectors, especially underfunded ones like healthcare or social support, volunteers are quietly keeping entire systems afloat. And meanwhile, for those who are employed, one job is often not enough. Working multiple part-time roles has become a survival strategy. It's not driven by ambition or personal growth. It's about covering rent, groceries, and basic stability. And this is no longer the exception, it's becoming the norm. The rise of side hustles is celebrated as entrepreneurial spirit, but behind that narrative is a grim reality. A full-time job, in many cases, no longer pays a living wage, especially for those who live in the city. and city jobs are increasingly necessary because everything has become centralized. People are working longer hours across more fragmented schedules just to be able to stay afloat. And in the background, there's this unspoken pressure to be grateful, to accept unpaid internship for the sake of experience, to treat burnout as dedication, to see overwork as a badge of honor. But when a system depends on unpaid labor and exhaustion to function, something is fundamentally broken. What was once considered temporary or marginal, such as gig work, freelance contracts, and unstable hours, has steadily moved into the mainstream. Country after country, gig-based roles are expanding while traditional full-time employment shrinks. This shift is often framed as flexibility, but for most workers, it's insecurity packaged as freedom. No paid leave, no healthcare, no predictable income, and no recourse when things go wrong. But it's not just about the jobs their people are taking, it's about how governments are responding to these crises or failing to respond. In some countries, the erosion of social safety nets means job loss leads directly to poverty. In others, slow recoveries have left entire sectors like hospitality and retail lagging behind, with long-term unemployment affecting younger workers the hardest. The result? An entire generation caught between the decline in job security and the rising of living costs. Many are living with their parents into their 30s. Many are returning to their parents' homes in their 50s. Others are turning to informal work, mutual aid, or even crowdfunding to make ends meet. And this isn't a blip. It's the new baseline. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to imagine anything else. And there is a dark irony in how markets react to layoffs. When a company announces thousands of job cuts, stock prices often rise. Investors celebrate efficiency. Financial media praises leaner operations. Human lives become metrics. The layoff itself becomes an absolute spectacle, covered in headlines, dissected by analysts, but rarely questioned in terms of human costs. In this upside-down logic, downsizing becomes growth and worker disposability becomes a signal of success. And as job markets shift and precarity rises, many companies are creating an illusion, suggesting that there are opportunities abound when in reality, they often don't exist at all. Take job advertisements, for example. It's increasingly common to see listings for entry-level roles that demand years of experience, degrees, and specialist skills, only to offer wages barely above the legal minimum. These roles often remain unfilled, not due to a lack of candidates, but because the ads were never serious in the first place. Some are used to test the talent pool, build databases, or fulfill internal policy requirements without any intention of hiring. Then there's the recruitment process itself. Endless interviews, vague timelines, and sudden disappearances. Applicants are left waiting for replies that never come. Ghosted after a second, third, or fourth interview. And the time and emotional labor fall entirely on the job seekers, while companies face no obligation to even offer closure. And this kind of corporate behavior isn't rare, it's become systemic. And it compounds the stress of those already navigating an uncertain economy. People aren't just losing income, they are losing time, energy, and confidence in a system that tells them to keep trying, even when it offers nothing back. And it's not just that the jobs are disappearing, it's that the process of searching for one has become a psychological minefield, shaped more by illusion and optimism than actual opportunity. And adding insult to injury, many companies that announce that they just laid off thousands of employees start hiring again within weeks. Instead, they bring in contractors, freelancers, or temporary staff. This churn keeps headcounts low while exploiting desperate job seekers who accept worse conditions for a foot in the door that may never open. And losing a job isn't just an economic shock, it's an identity crisis. Work gives human beings structure, community, or even purpose. When that's pulled away, people don't just lose income, they lose belonging. Mass layoffs fracture routines, friendship, and self-worth. And for many, the first reaction to a layoff might be relief, but it's quickly followed by anxiety and deep grief. For many, it mimics bereavement. And while employers may offer outplacement services or a few months of severance, the long-term emotional impact is often ignored by everyone. Studies show that prolonged unemployment is linked to higher rates of depression, anxiety, substance use, and even suicide. The uncertainty corrodes confidence, relationships strain, and in cultures where productivity is often tied to value, job loss feels like personal failure, even when it's clearly systemic. And it's not just the laid off who suffer. Survivors, those who remain, often face layoff guilt, overwork, and chronic fear. Everyone becomes replaceable, everyone becomes quiet. And this is the real cost of a system that treats labor as disposable. Fractured mind, disconnected lives, and a workforce living in silent panic. But now let's step back and ask a very simple question. If so many people are struggling, yet corporate profits are higher than ever, who is the system serving? The answer is hard to ignore. Companies are saving money through automation, outsourcing, and precarious contracts. Governments are balancing the books by shifting the burden of care onto volunteers and underpaid workers. And the media continues to celebrate economic recovery based on metrics that overlooked the lived reality of millions. And for those in secure, above average paying jobs, the system might seem fine. But for the growing majority, those juggling part-times, temporary contracts, or forced into unpaid labor, it's a different story entirely. Their labor keeps things moving, yet they are told that they should be grateful just to participate. And that's the core of the issue. The modern job market is less about creating dignity through work and more about extracting as much as possible from those with the least power to push back. If we keep measuring success by GDPs or stock market gains, we will miss the fact that many economies are thriving precisely because workers are being squeezed. This isn't recovery, it's erosion. Slow, silent, and deeply unequal. And the question now isn't just where did jobs go? It's what kind of future are we building if stability, fairness, and basic security are no longer guaranteed? Thank you for watching this episode of the Job Market Iceberg. I hope that this gave you some food for thought, or at least some comfort in knowing that you are not alone in your struggle and we need to do something about it. Join me for the next episode where we will dig deeper into this iceberg and understand what is really going on. Thank you, and I will see you on the next one.